Hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of AMA's Marketing Amp. I'm your host, AMA CEO Bennie F. Johnson. In our episodes, we explore life through a marketing lens, delving into conversations with individuals that flourish at the intersection of marketing and the unexpected. We introduce you to visionaries whose stories you might not yet have heard of, but are exactly the ones you need to know. Through our thought-provoking conversations, we'll unravel the challenges, triumphs, and pivotal moments that have been shaped by marketing. Today, our guest is Clemence Sop. Clemence has been with InterSystems since 2018, working as the digital marketing manager and their global social media marketing manager. But now, most importantly and powerfully, as their head of marketing innovation. Prior to joining InterSystems, she worked with Conrad Technologies on marketing strategy and business development. She's a proven strategic marketing leader, and she not only brings an extensive background in customer marketing, media strategy, and business development, but she also strives at this intersection of innovation through digital platforms and AI. Clemence, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's really a pleasure that you're able to make time for us today and talk about all things innovation, digital, and AI. I want to start with a point that I was struck in looking at your background, a prompt that you have on your LinkedIn page, which is fearless innovation. Talk a bit about that as a starting point for you.
I'm not afraid to find new solutions to solve existing problems because that's how you innovate, right? Is try to find fastest ways and new ways, easier ways to solve existing problems. And when you are innovating, you activate your creative mind and you find new solutions, right? And then that's just my DNA. I'm a creative thinker. I like to find I like challenges. When something is easy, I get bored, and challenges they push me to learn more, to explore and find new ways to solve problems. And that's the definition. That's why I put the fearless innovation there. Yeah.
Well, it's one of the things that drew my attention and immediately fell in love with the statement. I knew I had a kinship there of someone who loved innovation and that intent to be fearless with it. As you lead now, being the head of marketing innovation, what does that mean for you and your role today? As we round out 2024, what does it mean to be head of marketing innovation in our world?
The way I see it is I'm very grateful about the digital era, right? Digital platforms have opened up a lot of opportunities to us, businesses, individuals. So you're able to connect with people all over the world. And post-pandemic, people are saturated now because a lot of people are being bombarded by information. In that, how do you meet your buyers where they most need you, right? How do you meet them at the right place at the right time? How do you help them make decisions that help solve their problems? We must innovate. We must find a way to filter and get away from the mental stamp filter that a lot of people online now have developed and stand out. And to me, marketing, you don't need to be the biggest player to achieve your goals. You just need to be strategic about how and what you want to do, and then you'll be able to achieve your goals. So innovation today means whatever challenge we have, meaning we have to sell a new product, regardless if there is already an existing competition. We need to recruit the best candidates, right? We need to build a community in order to enter a new market. We need to go to a new country and introduce our solution. Then how do you do that? You have to find new ways to develop strategies and putting your target audience at the center of it all. And when you do that, you create new ways to navigate through all of this saturated digital world and you achieve your goals. So that's how I view innovation today.
It's really, really powerful. When you're thinking about innovation, I know for you, it's not a process you're taking on by yourself. What do you look for in team members now?
I look for passion a lot, right? I believe that the brain is a muscle. I truly believe that. I believe that you can learn just about anything. The more you train yourself, the better you get at anything. So I'm not looking for people who know everything. I rather look for people who understand that they still have to learn. and are curious enough to recognize that, go and learn, try, fail, learn and be better. That's what I look for in people.
So I know in your current role, you're able to champion innovation across the organization.
Yeah.
So I see how you've been able to foster this within your team. How do you champion this spirit of innovation across your organization with other teams and other departments? How do you get them on board with the ideas and approaches from your marketing innovation?
I learned the hard way.
Okay.
when you're innovating and you're bringing in, because the good thing, and I'm very grateful that InterSystems has given me the platform to be able also to try and fail and learn, right? Especially when you have to solve or deal with a new challenge and finding new ways to resolve it. I mean, the pandemic all taught us that we have to do marketing differently. I'm just going to give you a concrete example. So when I joined the company a couple of years back, I was already a big advocate for us to adopt this digital landscape, right? Because obviously with my engineering background and studying algorithms, I do understand.
Talk a bit about that, because you came into marketing as an engineer.
Yeah, I did. And it's very funny because when I was at school, to be honest, I remember we used to make fun of everybody studying communications and marketing because we thought it was so easy and we were like the only girls in the engineering class. But yeah,
say it ain't so. You didn't make fun of other marketing kids. Come on.
But that was the best decision I made. Yeah, I am home marketing now. No, what made me change, anyways, engineer by training. And when I was doing my master's, I was specializing in systems engineering. I came across this article and it talked about big data. It talked about the data science behind social platforms. That was when Facebook was starting, right? And was talking of the business module behind. And the article predicted that the world is going to depend on these platforms because it's a new art of communication, it's a new social network. And I read a little bit about it and I thought maybe a competitive advantage for me, right, will be to understand how those things work from the back end, right? Well, on the front end. So then if I can teach people and if I can understand the business, well, the formula of the business module is not always easy. What I mean by this is the algorithms, right? If I can understand what drives the algorithms, then it's a good competitive advantage because suddenly because of the business modules and because companies will rely on it, if they know what best actions to take, they're ahead of the curve. And that's how I started studying Google algorithms. I don't know any platform that I haven't studied the algorithm. And it's pretty comprehensive, right? To study something from the front end. So you have to derive your own formulas. You have to collaborate and work with students to help you study these patterns. Then you derive your formulas. And that has always helped me because what I do also here is like I really teach the company as a whole the things that we need to do, even with LinkedIn, with Facebook, with Instagram, with Google. If we know what to do, we save money and save time.
Right. I love the language that comes out in your approach. You've multiple times in our conversation, you've already talked about teaching and learning again, and that being a core part of how you're able to grow your team, but also put innovation throughout the organization. Recently we've talked a lot. There are a lot of conversations about AI, and I think, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it with you because you've spent a lot of time rolling up your sleeves and understanding algorithmic learning and the algorithms that are going into platforms. But you've also done some projects where you've been able to really roll up your sleeves and dig into current AI tools. Talk a bit about, what you've learned these last few months digging in with this project.
I mean, AI is a hype now, right? But AI is not new. It has just been made available to the consumer. My journey with really experimenting with AI started a couple of years back when I introduced at InterSystems right at the core of the pandemic what my definition of social selling is. Mind you, we are in a B2B company, right? And we suddenly had to adapt the social, rely on digital platforms to identify our prospects and engage with them and then sell, build relationships and then sell. That was and it's a whole change management program, because in that sense, what I realized on social is that people talk to people, peers speak to peers. We are in marketing, so we understand, we speak the same language. When you're trying to break into an account, we divide and conquer. Marketing people speak to marketing people, executives speak to executive, and suddenly we are multiplying our touch points and we're building our footprints within the company, and we work in clusters. So that's my definition of social selling. But how do you do that efficiently? You have to get a lot of insight. And insight doesn't necessarily mean that, you just Google here and there, and you have to read through the finance reports. You have to understand what people like, because when you're engaging with insights, right, you get feedback. If you engage without feedback, you spam people. So my team and I began experimenting with AI tools to scrape through the net and find information so we could report back to all of the members of the clusters to drive. It could even help drive how marketing and designing their messaging, how sales is designing their outreach, and how also our executives are designing their messages and their approach towards the other executives that we're targeting. So understanding what people talk about, company pinpoints, right? Understanding where there's an opportunity for investment, or if the close investment, only just those really triggers and nuggets. And obviously, a lot of AI tools are evolving and coming up every day, right? And then the mistake we did, because we also learned is just trying to test all of it, because one has a feature that the other one doesn't have. So my goal was to understand how we can use AI to be very much efficient and save time. The biggest advantage to us is really scraping through and getting these insights and reporting it back to the team and using that in our outreach so as to increase our lead quality and what I call to engagement. So communications and networks, that's one thing. Automation, using AI for marketing automation and personalization, right? What I tell my team is that with all of these AI tools, we're faster. This doesn't necessarily mean that we have to rely on them. We need to activate our left AI brain, meaning spend more time to be creative, spend more time to personalize your approach so we can get past the brick wall that everybody has, right? Everybody has this brick wall of the mental stamp filter. Yeah, so that's my experience with it. I think we should embrace it, but not like go into it just, and we need to understand where we want AI to step in and help us. What you also see, I just can spot AI written content online, right? In the ever evolving landscape. And you have it. That's something not to do, right? And that's how we learned.
It's interesting because you can spot it. For me, it's a parallel for looking at a stock image, right?
Yeah.
If you're in marketing, you can spot the stock images. Whether you know what company it's coming from or not, you know where those stock images are being used. And they're useful, but it's not the same as an authentic marketing engaged creative image, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious when you talked about the efficiency of using the AI tools, which adds to less friction and more speed. In the change management sense, how have your other business partners responded to you being able to provide this greater efficiency and speed? Have they been overwhelmed with now you're able to get more information to them, right?
Yeah, it's overwhelming. But I think, change management always has this loop where you need to, my experience with it is you get the early adapters and prove your point as you go. It's not, when I embark on this journey, at the beginning, my boss endorsed the program, and he said, just do it. And it was endorsed globally. And I suddenly had to talk to people from different cultures, different backgrounds. And I come back to him and was like, it's not working. They are not buying it. And I see the value of it, right? And then can you, I was looking for a top-down approach, write an email, tell everyone to adopt it. He said something that I'm forever grateful to him for. He said, I want you to learn one of the biggest lessons. And he said, I want you to learn the art of persuasion. You need to persuade people to do what you believe in, what you believe works, but they need to do it willingly. And so I went back and did all of these trainings where I needed to understand how, which is what I also used that in AI later. So I had to understand. So if I'm going to France, I need to adjust my tone of voice. I need to know if somebody's passive. I need to know if somebody's active. My team built an AI tool just based on that principle. So we can adapt our tone of voice as we were drafting our messages to reach out to people, because what I learned is that when I'm talking to people in this country, I have to adopt my tone of voice, right? And I have to adapt because it's delivery and is how you deliver and how they receive it. And you have to make sure they receive your message. So I went back and, I work with the early adapters. I always make sure to share the wins, right? And it's like making it easy for people to adopt it and just keep working with the early adapters. And then that's how it evolved. And then we had a moment where we, when the peak and down the change management curve where people were like saturated and overwhelmed by everything and we were not seeing any progress, we had to start again, encouraging people, educating. I do a lot of education. So I know, and I'm persistent. So I'm pretty sure some people, I'm always sending this company-wide emails. So I do trainings twice a month about this program and it's open to people. I send my team and we send follow-up message with work checklists. This is how you do it. We have built an academy so that people can go and watch it. Really made it easy for them to do. Now, it's a process. A change management program is a very complex one, but that was how we did it.
I mean, one of the things that I never want to be light about, but we think about it, innovation is a true process and change. And we all will say we want innovation until innovation happens to us, right? It's kind of in this space. And it's like, yes, we can do these things better, more dynamic and faster. And it's great until you kind of imagine visually all of the things coming down the supply line.
Yeah.
Getting faster and faster and faster. And then the innovation becomes a bit of a challenge because it's not the way we used to do things.
Yeah, it's not the way. And then just to add on that, and once you challenge, and because it's a new thing, you always want to go back to the way you used to do things before. And that's the complicated thing with that. It's very frustrating because people start something and then they stop it and then they go back to what we were actually moving away from. And it was quite interesting to look at it from a different perspective because, again, another example, went back to my boss again with this problem. I said, can you help me fix it? And he said, how long have you been in Boston? I'm like, I've been here a year. It's like, how often do you go home? Have you adapted? Like, I still live in the European time zone. My mind is still very much in Monte Carlo. And when it's difficult here, I always fall back to Monte Carlo. So I still connect with my family, my friends. It takes time to adapt. And then it takes time to get used to new processes.
So I'll ask this question for you. How is your foray into artificial intelligence improve you as a manager through your own human intelligence?
It has made me smarter and faster. You can comprehend a lot of information easily. That to me is the greatest value proposition of this AI stuff, is that I'm exposed to a lot of knowledge. It would have taken me longer to even read and comprehend. I can summarize and I can understand it. I'm presented with theses, and then it's up to me to make the next decision to help me in my life or in my job. I think that is the biggest value that I see, not necessarily relying on it completely, but helping me in those decision making.
Which is really, I mean, you can hear the growth and just think about it as the manager in the space. So in your career before, and we've had these conversations on our podcast, looking at the evolving role of the CMO title. In the past, you've been a fractional leader for Spaces. Talk to me a bit about that. What are some of the lessons that you take away or advice you have for people who may be serving in those roles where they get to provide a leadership on a part-time basis for someone?
That's challenging.
Yeah.
It's like it's the same thing. It's like my experiences with the fractional roles that I have it's more like a consultant, and you're coming in, you're seeing a problem, and you're suggesting a solution, but it's not up to you to implement it. You have no direct power on that. The team has to decide for themselves if they would implement it. And that's difficult. If they report to you, it's a different scenario if all of them report to you. But when you're consulting, you have to, again, persuade, right? Because I am very results driven. So sometimes when you provide a solution, you provide a strategy, I know for sure if it's being implemented from A to Z with a bit of tweaks, we'll get the results. But then you're living against somebody else's hand or in a team's hand, and you don't have direct authority or direct power to make them do it, which is not, I don't say you have to meet. Again, the point I'm trying to make is just you have to persuade. Work with a lot of persuasion, and I always come with my facts. I'm always prepared. I never say something that is not backed up by facts, right? And so when I use that, I convince them and persuade them to do it, and they see the results, and that's how I evolve. My advice, to answer your question, my advice to people in that role, if they have a similar experience as I had or as I am having, is to do your homework, to come with your facts and to work in a persuasive way. Because when you can persuade people to do, or to align your thoughts with theirs, you achieve greater success. Because it's not my way or the highway, right? It's a collective thing.
So I'll ask you this bit of a question, because I'm a firm believer that two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
We know that you were trained as an engineer. When did you realize you were a marketer?
I think I was always a marketer.
I didn't want to put words in your mouth.
I think I was always a marketer. It just took me a while to realize it. Yeah.
Well, we're delighted as a community that you are. But I think there's some beauty in being a marketer who understands engineering and an engineer who understands marketing, and having a space. Think about how robust and expansive the role of marketing executive has become. I
think that when you can understand data, you can only become a better marketeer. Because look, this is us in marketing. And I might be generalizing. Let me put myself on here. Often we look at things from our lenses, right? So I want to sell my product. I want to market my product. I would say my product is the very best product. Is it the very best product? Yeah. But when you look at things from the customer side, it's different. It's like you have to adjust your tone of voice. You have to make sure you're answering the why. And with data points, actually, you can get feedback. You can know, is it resonating? Am I making progress? Do I need to shift things right and left? And so I think a good data scientist is a great marketeer when he masters that. I think a combination of both. Well, this is where the world is taking us to, right? With all this technology right now. Yeah, if you understand data, you're very good in marketing.
So true. Nick, you've been tasked, we talked about this before, really being global in your nature, global in the work that you're doing in space. What are some of the acceleration points or trends you're seeing globally in terms of the market when you kind of think about the work you do in the US, but then the work you do in Germany or France or other spaces? Are you seeing any different trends or any things that we should be aware of?
I think when we're talking of the digital landscape, talking in a B2B field, I think for me, there is an overall, I think I've already mentioned it in this call. I call it the mental spam filter. It's very difficult to get through the people online right now when coming from a marketing standpoint. People are bombarded with information. Social platforms are saturated. Taking LinkedIn, you accept the connection request. It feels like you give somebody an invitation to your living room because they keep bombarding you with messages that you didn't even want. That is an overall trend right now. And what happens? That people are becoming very cautious. And the call to engagement reduces. The quality of leads also we get. It's challenging to get the good leads. It's challenging to have meaningful conversations or to get through the people. So what I see and what I'm telling the people when I travel is like, look at this platform as a way to network with people, build relationships, and then you can sell, and then you can market, and then you can bring them to your community, and you can track and see if your message is resonating with them. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And these are things that good foundational spaces for marketing that intentionally amplified in our global space now.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a bit about listening and strategy. What advice do you have being able to use the tools that we have to listen, to be able to engage with your marketplace?
We have to listen a lot. You have to listen with insights too. There's a difference. Like if you're looking at data points and you look at, let's say, topographies, keywords, if you know that these people are looking for this specific keyword, is that enough insight to reach out to them? Probably not. You need to do your homework, right?
Not effectively without being intrusive, right?
Exactly. Without being intrusive, it's all about understanding people's pain points, because then when you're engaging with insight. And the best thing you can do is even meet them in their research journey, because 8%, I think I read this article the other day, a good 80% of the buyer's journey is online. They're active researchers, active listeners, but they don't want to be bothered. It would even be better if you meet them there in their search. And you can only do that if you've done your homework. So listening, AI can help us very well to listen, to understand, to summarize information, understand what project people are working on, what their pain points are, what kind of solutions they are looking for, and personalize our outreach. I always tell people I work with, like, you increase your call to engagement by so many points when you try to add a personal note to it. Simple example, if when I'm doing my research, you are on my radar and I would like to talk to you, right? And I realize we probably went to the same school, or your daughter just graduated and you just posted about it. That's an entry point, right? If I start with that, then it's a people-to-people platform. And if we can add that personalized touch, we can build relationships and then we can achieve our goals.
That's a really powerful point, right? When we strip away everything in there, our conversation as marketers is always about people-to-people relationships.
Yeah.
Why do I answer, note, post, respond to an ad? It's because it relates to me.
Exactly.
So what have you been most excited about? As you spend a lot of time with AI platforms and seeing what's new and next, what have been some of the things you've been most excited about in the last few months of new tools or potential techniques that are emerging?
These web scraper tools, there are a few that are GDPR compliant, so you could be in a safe place. But look at this. There's so many tools have what we call AI agents, so you can build a custom API and then it browses for you. Imagine you can ask, okay, I'm going to have a meeting with this person or this company's on our radar, browse for me and give me a summary of what I should take into account. And you have a summary. And that is not what you get when you Google. It's really a summary, because these agents are scraping through multiple sources and summarizing it for you. So then you have it. So I'm very excited with those new scraping tools. Yeah, it could be on the gray line, but right now my experiment with it is, it's been productive, right? Because it helps me save a lot of time. Automation. Oh, that's a big advantage. Personalizing, automation. This thing to adapt your tone of voice to the person's personality. The few tools that I've seen, well, they say they're 80% or 70% accurate, but I think it helps you to know that this person is assertive, is straight to the point, and is stressed when you waste their time. You can just go straight to the point. You don't need to have a lot of jargon in your outreach or in your lead capturing methods, right? For me, those are, what I think of like top of mind. And also helping us understand the algorithms better. Before studying algorithms, you will do that manually. It's a lot of work, a lot of hours, right? Now I can study it. And in Google, they change their algorithm every so often. So you think you get it, and then they change it again, and then you have to. So now with AI, it's very easy. I found it easier to know.
Right.
Many more things.
With the constant shift.
Yeah.
As we approach this, one of the things that I love is that you're always positive in your intention on innovation.
Yeah.
Kind of working through. What advice do you have to share with our marketers who are listening, and our business leaders who are listening, and our students who are listening about keeping that positive frame when you look at innovation? I get a lot of notes that are about the fear of what's next, the fear of AI, the fear of algorithms. What advice do you have about keeping this positive future direction?
We all have to keep an open mind. Well, I, for one, am not afraid of failure. It hurts, right? But I look forward to the opportunity to learn from it. Because what I tell people on my team, right, the guys who work with me, I'm more frustrated when we are afraid to try something because we're afraid to fail than when we try. I never said no to a new idea. Yeah, that's my motto. You bring a new idea, just like try it, do it, and then let's help you with it, and let's see what we can learn from it. And as we're doing it, and like did you research? What can you still do extra? And I think you can only grow. I think you also have to be embracing innovation. Also, it means that you have to be strategic about it, right? And you have to be careful. You don't have to be all over the place. You have to really be goal oriented, right? And not be afraid to fail. And that's how you grow.
Yeah. I think it's something, in the nuance that you said, there's a difference between being careful and being risk averse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And knowing that if nothing is ventured, nothing is gained.
Yeah.
And that being able to have that freedom in innovation, I think is really important. And it shines through in your conversations about, okay, we're going to try.
Yeah.
So what do you think, what do you wish most marketers would try? If you could kind of give a script for in the next 6 to 12 months, what would you encourage marketers to try?
When we say marketers, marketing is obviously very broad. I would just focus on what I know a little bit. So when it comes to, personalized outreach, lead generation, I wish that we actually listen to our target audience, right? And try to figure out the why a bit more and connect with people. There is this thing that and this is also one thing that we've used in my campaign. We say what part of the market what is a market share that we want to have? We don't want to be all over the place. For me, there's what I usually use here internally, and we call it situational awareness, right? We need to be known by the people who would care about what we are offering to them. And when we are strategic like that, it doesn't matter if they already have an affinity with our competition, because we are going in to build relationships with them and then gain their trust. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. We should gain our trust. It's interesting when we talk about, all the technology we have, but at the heart of your strategy, it's a humanist strategy. It's about listening, it's teaching, it's learning.
Yeah.
It's all these that put the human first, right? But allow you to use the technology to go into. When you think about those who are coming into the profession, right? You entered from a path of engineering, and where we have a lot of students who come in who are looking at trying to find a space in marketing. What advice would you have for people to find their own way?
Well, I would say marketing is highly competitive, right? There are a lot of people, there are a lot of marketing. Like if you're a student, the students coming into this field, there are a lot of us, right? And I am always about what is your unique, what do you bring to the table that is unique? Because that's how you would evolve, and that's how your career would also be designed, right? Is find that niche, because marketing is broad. Find that niche and excel in that niche. Make sure you are the best at it, right? Or if you're not the best at it, that you really know what you're doing. And you understand the ins and outs of it. You do your research, you're ahead of the curve. That's the only way you gain competitive advantage. I'll take it social media. There are a lot of social media, marketeers out there. How do you stand out if you know the algorithm, right? If you know what to do, because you help people save money at time.
In time and space.
Yeah.
Well, I think on that note, we'll conclude our conversation. It's been a delight to think about your world as this intersection of marketing and engineering and marketing, humans and algorithms, listening and communicating. Clemence, it's been a pleasure to kind of explore these conversations with you, and we look forward to seeing more of the work that you're able to do at this intersection of AI, marketing, and building a new future. Thank you for joining me for this conversation. And thank you all for listening to this episode of AMA's Marketing Ed. I'm your host, Bennie Johnson. We encourage you to learn more about the power of AI marketing through the AMA and through listening to our series. Thank you.